Diversity awareness. The challenge is not to understand other cultures, but rather to understand our own. So I talked earlier about your filters. Beware of your filters. I cannot stress that enough. There's no way we're ever going to know everything. I was having a little conversation just a minute ago about some scenarios where you had a client come in and wouldn't sit down while you were talking to them, so you ended up having to stand up. What was that about? You can't possibly be versed in every other culture. You're going to make mistakes. So a good starting point is always to do your own self-check. Diversity awareness helps us to understand how our behavior and our responses to others' behavior is influenced by culture, to develop better cross-cultural communication strategies as a result of those awarenesses. So, what companies must realize about diversity, and looking out here at the audience, I see that Mississauga is an early adopter who seem to have embraced diversity nicely. But Canadian companies and corporations now more than ever have to tap into groups traditionally underrepresented in the workplace. Organizations that do not get the business case for diversity will be wiped out tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow, maybe a couple of years. But the strength of Canada is our diversity. Nobody said it's going to be comfortable, but it does lead to a better result when we work with it. If everybody thinks the same, you get the same answers. If you get diverse opinions, you might come up with a better answer to your questions. So, it's all about customer service excellence. It's about staying competitive locally and globally. It's about keeping pace with the changing face of Toronto and the GTA. It's about improving your interpersonal communication skills to help you grow in your own job. So human dimensions are not static. The cultural, social context may force changes, but everybody will change at their own pace. People who share the same human dimensions are not homogeneous. There we go, big words in the morning. Because individuals in such groups do not have the same experiences. So even, we had a little conversation on the break about, yes, you can generalize about certain cultures, but even within cultures, you're going to have different people. I mean, even looking at your own family, the characteristics you'll have, one will be extroverted, one will be introverted. People have different interpretations and meaning given to shared experiences. I no longer believe in the truth, because if you have 10 people at the same event, their truth is different. So this right, wrong, black, white, I say I live in a land of gray. I don't live in a black and white world anymore. Everything is interpretation. Diversity is going to happen whether we like it or not. But inclusiveness has to be built. And if we want to have productive workplaces, if we want to have a comfortable working environment, it's going to take a little effort. So what can you do? Think critically about diversity. Examine your own identity. Try and avoid stereotypes. They're a lot of fun though. I do love stereotypes, but they can cause problems. And consider how you interact with others. Okay? Check your perceptions. What's wrong with that map? There's nothing wrong with it. We live on a ball. There's nothing says that what we consider north has to be at the top. I actually found out recently that in the ancient Finnish lore, the Finns used to believe that the rest of the world was above them because they knew that cold settled and heat rose. So they figured the rest of the world was warmer, therefore it must be above, not below. So you gotta watch that your perceptions, that you're aware that they are indeed your perceptions, not universal perceptions. Here's a couple of mind benders. Can't remember what country it is, but there is a country out there where doctors are paid a monthly fee for keeping you healthy. So every month you pay your doctor if you didn't get sick. Can you imagine how that would change healthcare? And there's no reason why you couldn't do it that way. Apparently in Japan, they don't name the streets, they name the blocks. So if you ask, what street do you live on? They'll tell you, I live on such and such a block. And well, how do you get there? And it's, well, you have this block and I live here. And they don't number the houses according to a linear number. They number them according to when they were built. So I hope I never get lost in Japan, because I would be in so much trouble. I kind of like the North American laid out by the military, nice straight roads. New York, Manhattan is a dream. If you can count, you can find your way around in Manhattan. It's just I live on 7th Street at 5th Avenue, and it's very easy. So for the Japanese, their way is right. For us, our way is right. Doesn't mean either are the only way. So some steps towards working with diversity. Stop stereotyping and oversimplifying. Stop thinking that breakdowns in communication occur because other people are doing it the wrong way. It might be you doing it the wrong way. Their way might actually be better. Look for opportunities to suspend judgment and see the situation as an outsider. Look for new ways to communicate. There is no one right way. For the last 5 years, I've been working in a building where we had a kitchen culture. So a lot of people ate lunch in the staff kitchen. I have learned so much. I loved those informal interactions where I could ask about foods, I could ask about holidays, I could find out, what does Ramadan mean, what does it involve? All of these things fascinate me. So look for ways to find out. If you show a genuine human interest in other people, it's been my experience anyway, they're usually pretty happy to share. And the more we know about each other, the less likely we are to misinterpret what's going on. So listen, both actively and empathetically, and learn to control the human tendency to translate something that's different from us as something that is less than us. So just because they do it differently does not make it worse. Might even make it better. Maintain a work environment where everyone is valued for their unique abilities. At Skills for Change, we sometimes joke that we should be called Food for Change, because everybody who starts there seems to gain weight because we're forever sharing food. Different festivals, different holidays, bringing food in and passing it around, and it's the best. And the best part of my job is the potlucks at the end of the workshop. I always get so disappointed when a class decides that they don't want a potluck. So I've gotten to sample all different foods. Foods is a great way into a culture. And if you're the HR at a company and try and find ways of bringing the groups together so that they can learn about each other. Not just, okay, the accounting department is all the Filipinos and the IT department is all the Chinese, or however it's arranged in your office. Try and find ways to mix them up. By understanding our own diversity, we're more effective in accepting differences, accommodating diversity, and promoting awareness. So the more we know, the better we're going to be at it. So to steer away from stereotypes, generalizations must be descriptive and not evaluative. So describe what you see. Don't be careful not to try and over-interpret it. So if you're talking to a colleague and you're having some issues and you're not sure if the issue is on your side or theirs, start by describing the behavior without placing any evaluation on it, and find out what could be the true situation. Make sure your stereotypes are conscious. You're aware of them. That's I think the most important piece of advice I give to my students when they're looking for work is, whatever you do, do it consciously. There's a price to pay for any action. If you're not aware of what you're doing, you are going to end up paying a price for something that you're not aware of. So if you go to an interview and you wear, I don't know, sari or something, that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but you have to be aware that there will be consequences. Some people will think, oh, cool. And some people will think, oh, you're too exotic for our office. So whatever you do it with awareness, because there is a price. They always tell you with interviews, you should wear black, gray, brown, neutral colors, conservative jewelry, and all the rest of this is for the women. Men, no jewelry is conservative enough, just so you know. But that's not me. I'm not a blend in the background kind of person. So I've been known to go to an interview in a bright red jacket or with big flashy earrings or something, because either you accept me for who I am and I'm going to fit in and I'm going to do just fine, or you don't like me. And it's better that we get that out of the way at the interview rather than me coming in pretending to be something I'm not. But I'm aware of it and I know that there are consequences. So whatever you do, just make sure that you are aware of your actions. Try and keep things evidence-based. Don't jump to conclusions. Make sure that you have real evidence behind that gut reaction you're having. And try and keep them modifiable. I love having anybody who knows me, and I'm sure Roland can attest to this, I have theories about everything. I love a good theory. And I'm happy to change them too. So I just recently, I think, conclusively proved about jet lag. I don't do jet lag. I don't. I never have had a problem. I arrive wherever I am and I'm immediately on their time. And I recently flew to India and back within a 7-day period. No problem. Got there, went to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning like I always do, got up at 8, just fine. My theory is it's because I have no routine. So I go to bed anytime between 11 at night and 5 in the morning. I get up anytime between this morning at 5. Oh God. Much rather be up and going to bed at 5 than getting up at 5. I eat at a different time. I have no routine. So when I travel, it's very easy for me to adapt immediately. I have coworkers who every night, 365 days of the year, they will be in bed at 9 and asleep at 5 after. It's as sure as the sun rises and sets. And when the time changes, they take a month to get adjusted because it throws off their rhythm. So, as you see, I have lots of theories. But I am always collecting data to see if my theory is true. So I'm always willing to change it based on new data. So make sure you're willing to adjust your opinions and don't get too entrenched in them, because you can lose opportunities that way. Okay, so cultural diversity is a bit of an iceberg. What you see on the surface, what they tell you it's about, is not by any means the full picture. So when we think about, cultural diversity. We think about music and food and dance and language. But the parts we don't see are the values and the beliefs and the attitudes and the assumptions. 90% of the iceberg is not visible. So it becomes a case of what you see versus what you don't see. And if we make our judgments on only what we see, hence the stereotypes. So some questions to ask yourself when you're interacting with your team. Do you provide your non-native, so non-Canadian born staff or colleagues with consistent, clear, and adequate information in a way that they will understand? If you don't tell it to them in a way that they're understanding, then you shouldn't be surprised if they don't do it the way you wanted it done. So if things are not getting done the way you want them, it might be worthwhile to stop and think, am I giving the instructions correctly? Without assuming, well, this person is an idiot and I don't know why we hired them. Are you willing to use simpler language or repeat yourself when interviewing non-native speakers in English? Or do you just, like interview questions, I'm sure most of you have a set of interview questions. I only speak English, people, and there's lots of room for interpretation in those. What do you mean? So imagine throwing in another language. And honestly, anybody who can speak another language, hats off to you. Because I lived in Finland for 9 years, and I never got beyond what I call Tarzan Finnish, me, Jane, you, Tarzan, that kind of level. And I lived in Holland for 4 years. I didn't master that one either. So if you speak more than one language, wow, good for you. Having English as your first language, though, I think is a bit of a curse, because you can go everywhere and speak English. And also English, any of you who've learned it as a second language can attest, it makes no sense. There's no structure. So I always say that because English doesn't truly have a structure, English speakers don't learn grammar the way we're supposed to. So when we try and learn a new language, it's like we don't have a filing system. I take in all new words, and it's like they're sitting in the boxes. And the words in the top box I can access. But I know there's other words in there, but I don't have a filing system for retrieving them. So make sure that you are willing to meet them part way. They probably speak way more languages than you do. Do you avoid using metaphors, slang, or jargon? Oh, you can get so confusing when you start using slang and jargon. Because if you look at each word individually, the meaning is one thing, and then when you put it together, the way we use it can be very different. So, like the kids say something is bad, meaning it's good. Okay, I look in a dictionary and, ooh, that's bad. What does that mean? Is it good? Is it bad? I have to keep asking. Remain non-judgmental about others' accents. As long as you can understand it, it doesn't matter what it sounds like. And actually, I always say to my students, their goal is to get to the point where their accent becomes the spice that adds interest without getting in the way of the understanding. So it's lovely to listen to people with different accents. Are there members of any group that you would not invite into your home? And if so, why? So check your own comfort level. Is there any racial, religious, or cultural group that you prefer to work with or associate with? Human beings, human nature, I like to work with people who are like me. I like to be with people that I can relate to. It's comfortable. Doesn't always mean that you're going to get the best results, but it's comfortable. So make sure that you're aware that that's kind of your natural instinct. and do a double check. Is that going to get me the results that I want? Is there any racial, religious, or cultural groups you feel threatened by? And if so, you really need to do a self-check, because let's say you're interviewing somebody for a job, and maybe you had a personal run-in with somebody from that culture and it didn't go very well. Are you then judging everybody from that culture based on that interaction? And if you feel threatened by them, why? And what would help to lessen this feeling? And again, I believe knowledge is power. The more we know about each other, the more we realize that really people aren't that different. If you look at the different world religions, when you boil them down to the fundamental golden rule of every religion, they're all the same. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Janist, Buddhist, basically it all boils down to be nice, people. Do no harm. Treat other people well. And so the more we know, I believe the better we're going to get along.